Damn near, we were having some audio trouble. Can we hear from the live stream? Anyone in the chat? We're so back. Hello.
Okay, so I feel like it was 3 weeks ago where we were running through the rain romantically in New York.
Oh yeah.
Talking, and you're like, we're doing something.
Yeah.
But I
Did I tell you what we were doing?
I think I guessed it, and then you had to tell me. People do that. We're doing something. What are you doing? I'll give you one guess, and I didn't even guess it right. Still.
Wait, were you completely surprised, or from our, we've known each other for a long time and have been talking about ideas and visions?
Well, I knew that you were so burning to catching up this week. Here at Paragraph joined forces, so the future awesome is boldly in the hands of Colin and the team in Paragraph, building on the long history of Mirror, with a long list of innovative mechanisms and things we're going to play producing. People here had to play produce as well. And then I guess the backdrop of that is for the last year or so, you've been working on kiosks. Is that fair?
A few months in this kind of current iteration where we really got excited about Farcaster building something there, and I think have been always thinking about how does kind of content on-chain stuff become more social for many years, and kind of throughout the entire Mirror journey. I can talk more. We were kind of experimenting. Basically decided that there's a really big opportunity to make our on-chain experiences more social. Like Mirror started off in a more of a publishing long-form container, and we saw something that's way faster, kind of more of a feed modality being really powerful way to discover things, to transact. And when Frames came out, we kind of were like, wait, should we go all in on Farcaster? And that's kind of the story.
You kind of decided to go this publishing path. So what kind of flip was it, like the amount of people that were now on chain, the infrastructure, or like what happened that made you kind of want to run that social market?
Yeah, I think I think the Mirror genesis was like we had this really strong belief that storytelling is so critical to the formation of projects, of ideas spreading in the world, and always thought storytelling was critical to crypto. Like the Bitcoin white paper was this kind of founding document of that inspired people, not with just explaining how a technology works, but with kind of an ideology for the future. Like I know people that like frame the Bitcoin white paper in their office. It's like a this founding kind of like brand document. I think it's very aligned with some of the stuff you guys do. Vitalik is one of the best writers in the world. Inspired a whole generation of people to think about decentralization. All these zero knowledge proofs, scaling solutions, etc. But again, also like he's a I don't know, like a political philosopher. The ideas are so broad, and like writing is such a core thing to them. And then back to even the ICO days, like we were slinging PDFs of like stories about a future we want, but that doesn't exist yet. So we thought publishing will be really, really powerful for the crypto community to continue inspiring people, and it should be crypto native. But things got really interesting when we started embedding like the economics into that. So like we would joke early on, like, why couldn't you back an ICO in the PDF? And with Mirror, our first kind of popular tool was the crowdfund, that it let you embed, again, like you would read someone's announcement, their vision for a project that doesn't exist yet. You get excited and you can back it by minting an NFT, putting some ETH in. And what was really different was that, like, comparing to something like Kickstarter, you don't know who's participating. And I think crypto, activity being public and on chain, you could see people kind of joining a movement in real time. And for us, like a big unlock was like recognizing some people you would know from crypto Twitter being on the backer list or the collector list. And you're like, oh, Jess is backing it, Soren's backing it. And you're like, I know these guys. Now my perception of this project is completely different. So it was always like we always thought on-chain activity was actually, it wasn't just commerce or transactional, it was social. And always kind of try to innovate at the kind of intersection of content commerce community. And the move to a more social medium was, yes, we felt publishing storytelling was really important, but kind of the next opportunity was, how can the commerce be more embedded directly in the feed? And I think as Twitter kind of became a suboptimal venue for for us sharing our ideas, sharing crypto native experiences by linking out to them literally like is now broken. It's deprioritizing the algorithm. I think like it's no longer a good distribution mechanism for crypto native projects. And I think this migration to Farcaster will continue. But now the Farcaster primitives let us build a way richer experiences.
I want to talk more about distribution, but I think you should probably tell people what kiosk is in some succinct way.
Yeah. So yesterday was crazy. I think I feel like I had like 100 or 200 conversations, and I asked someone, what do you think of our announcement? Did it make any sense? Like what is kiosk? And they said it's a hyper on-chain Farcaster client. And I thought that was a really good way of putting it. So if Warpcast is obviously lets you do some on-chain things, but it's more social. We think that a lot of Farcaster power users, early adopters, are also hyper on-chain. They're creating NFTs. They're minting stuff from creators they love. They're swapping tokens. They're joining these communities that are enjoy others, that where the asset is like a core part of the experience. But today you're kind of only seeing half of the world. All these actions we're doing with our wallets on Base, on Zora, etc. If they're not showing up, we're only seeing half of the social experience. The mission of Kiosk is to make what you're doing on chain first class in every product surface. So we think it should be easy to see not only what your friends are saying, what they're liking, not only getting recommendations of the most popular content, but seeing what your friends are minting, what tokens they're swapping. Communities that have a native token as part of their channel, you shouldn't need to go to an external link to buy that token, to see your allowance, etc. So Kiosk's mission is to kind of synthesize on-chain into every product surface, from the feed to discovery to notifications to the creation tools. You should be able to interact with digital assets throughout the whole experience.
We can talk louder so people hear us. So we got you. I think hopefully I'm just gonna picture that I'm talking at the piece now.
We also, talk to me, but also it seems like we're getting signal here, but not on the stream. So you guys just pass the mic.
Oh, that's hot potato.
It's hot potato.
Is this better piece?
Let's ask the people on the stream.
Fun.
Yeah.
All right. So I either have to talk loudly and directly into a microphone, which feels like not the move, but all right, everybody. Dennis is going to take off his jacket. You heard it here first, folks. 1 like, 1 article of clothing. He only has 5 on right now. So Let's get it going. Okay, so it feels like I think a subtext of your question, Josh, is like this question around like why not lean? I remember being up in your DMs being like, Dennis, let me be more discoverable. Let me publish something here and let people subscribe to it and be able to see it. And I think email was kind of a step into that direction. But it feels like the unlock here with open social, Web3 social tools like Farcaster is that we actually have distribution that can be embedded in these products in much more of a natural way. And I think you've talked a lot about the suboptimal distribution channel that is Twitter, though it still very much is like the main top of funnel for most of crypto. And I think many of us in this room are probably taking a bet that developers and new sort of tools on top of Farcaster is actually going to make that a far more compelling place for more normal people to come hang out, and therefore that distribution will sort of expand. But I'm curious what you see Farcaster specifically doing and enabling from a distribution perspective, or maybe if you want to just talk a little bit about the lessons you've learned around the importance of distribution in this category.
Yeah, I think we probably relied too much on Twitter and crypto Twitter, and kind of like a mere post would typically go viral on Twitter. We would get a bunch of traffic, and we're like, oh, this is working pretty well. And obviously, if Twitter changes its rules, it doesn't work well anymore. And I think we want native kind of distribution mechanisms in it. And I think like baking in assets into your distribution plan, your go-to-market has been really exciting. Like the kiosk drop was accompanied by a little NFT of our logo, kind of app icon, and kind of the way we are doing our wait list is you had to mint the NFT, subscribe on Mirror. And what's really cool is that if you use interface, other tools, like it was really cool to see a bunch of people I follow minting the kiosk NFT. And again, it's like now that collector list is like a mini social graph. And we always talked about how the ownership, the collector list, the owner list of wallets, it's social. It represents a little community, and we want to integrate that more with the Farcaster social graph. Because it's all one and the same. So I think Farcaster is the environment, because wallets are linked natively, that we can again have these like integrated, synthesized experiences. Like, wouldn't it be cool if I could check, Jess, he's into cool stuff, he's an early adopter. If I could not only land on his profile, see what he's talking about, what he's saying, but also see, what has he been buying recently? If I haven't checked my client in 4 hours, what mints did I miss? What cool tokens are happening? But also, like, is there a channel that's tied to this asset that I should join? What's the vibe of the community here? Again, it's like the commerce being fragmented, I think is leaving a lot of just experiences off the table.
Yeah, I think that makes a ton of sense. I guess Farcaster as kind of the like social integration point, I guess, for a lot of these kind of disparate on-chain activities that are very social. Like we've been talking a lot in the context of Enjoy, just how social tipping is and how rich of a like social graph that we're already seeing by just knowing who's tipping who and the magnitude of that. And same with, all on-chain transactions are fundamentally social in some way. So bringing that together in the context that we're actually communicating and talking makes a ton of sense. I'm curious about like the business side though too. I think I've talked a lot about how I think the fundamental business model of consumer crypto is creating context that people want to transact within, and people want to transact for social reasons largely. So I think I think you guys are well positioned to just create that context really, really well. Is that how you're thinking about the business opportunity here? Is it transaction fees?
Yeah, I think it's the platforms that were the big winners from kind of an economic perspective in the last cycle were the exchanges and marketplaces. And the funnel was like, in some social venue, you would discover an interesting project or drop, whether you follow like Bored Apes on Twitter, whether your friend shares the NFT they minted, and it was like you had to click an external link, or sometimes you had to do the hard work of like you had to like Google the NFT or like search on OpenSea. Like this conversion funnel was very, very complicated and broken. It's kind of incredible how we got this far with all this friction. Like we keep saying, like on Twitter you share a screenshot of an asset, not the actual asset. And I think the future is like that JPEG knows who made it. If you want to mint it, you can automatically follow the creator. The creator gets a notification that they're building their audience, but they're also making some money. Then you can also see, oh, there's 30 other people who like this weird fucking NFT project, and maybe I want to follow them because these are my people. You know, they're into the same weird stuff I'm into again. And I think back to the business question. So these exchanges, marketplaces, won by being in the value flow of all of these transactions, right? And the ones that come to mind are OpenSea, Uniswap, maybe Coinbase, maybe the wallets that also enabled swapping in them, like MetaMask. I think for someone that builds the right client, I think there's an opportunity to be originating a lot of these transactions, and there's an opportunity to be in the value flow. But I also think the conversion is going to be better for everyone in the chain. Like for a creator, I think you will get more mints this way because it's just going to be much easier. Like the next Bored Ape, I need a better example. I think they will launch directly in the feed, and you will be able to mint in the feed. They will build a bigger audience. They will get more followers. They will sell more assets. The community will convert better to the channel or to the group chat and stay there longer because it's going to be all integrated and not fragmented. And I think for the consumer side, we can finally drive recommendations by, I follow a bunch of people I like. I have like a certain taste sensibility. You can get recommendations based on, just like, Warpcast is good at recommending content. Twitter's good at recommending content. We can now recommend assets. I think that's going to be really powerful.
All right. So when do we get to click buttons?
If you go to kiosk.app and there's a link to our intro post, the bottom of our intro post has an NFT you can mint to get on the wait list. And that basically gives us like your email and your wallet, which we can use to find your Farcaster ID. And we're going to start inviting probably the first batch of 100 people at some point today. We're still polishing some things up. But basically, we're going to start bringing waves of people onto our test flight to start getting feedback and teasing some of this early like on-chain integrations.
All right, man. Well, excited to click around with it. I know we have a lot of Enjoy holders here. Also, you're backed by some beautiful Enjoy shirts that we're going to be giving away here shortly. But looking forward to, I just think we're at the beginning of a huge wave of new tools that are going to be built on the social primitive. And, you guys have just built incredible tools that have been a big impact on C Club and so many of the communities that we've been backing for the years. So looking forward to clicking buttons. Thanks for hanging out with us today. Yeah, I think it's going to be super interesting to see, like, there's almost like this first wave of clients being built on top of Farcaster, which feel like very much just like, trying to compete with Warpcast, which when you talk to any builders, they're like, there's no way in hell I actually really want to compete with Warpcast. I think we're seeing some community-specific ones that feel interesting, but I think, listening to what Kiosk is building, seeing a couple of the other things that we've sort of been pitched over the last little while, there's a sense of like a lot of new functionality that maybe emerges from the combining of a bunch of things on the social graph, which, I think it's gonna be pretty cool to see.
Yeah, I think the most interesting examples we're seeing are things that they're not like defined by being a Farcaster client. They're like they have whatever, social ambitions like Dennis does, or, there's some kind of other adjacent thing that would benefit a lot from the distribution and social graph of Farcaster. So yes, we're a Farcaster client, but that's not the like extent of the ambitions of this thing.
Yeah, and the person in the team that people don't actually want to compete directly about, and I would love to get into some of this discussion around client diversity, et cetera, is Dan, who's going to come up and join us right now, DWR on the Warpcast. What's up, brother? How you doing? All right, so we have to share a mic here, otherwise the people on the internet can't hear us. They can hear us now. Yeah. Okay.
I have no problem talking loud.
He doesn't even need a mic. The people in New York can hear him on the live stream already. Okay, well, I ran into you yesterday for the first time. I realized you were just about to go on stage for the sort of State of the Union address. I think you sort of took a step back and looked at the hundreds of people that were filling the courtyard here. And I was just trying to think about like what was going through your mind as you were sort of seeing this. You got to see the stats, you see the data, you see all the numbers going up and to the right. And then there's actual real people sitting in front of you, eagerly anticipating the words that you're going to say about our collective future. So what was going through your mind then?
Yeah, so I think I kind of said it similar yesterday. Last year, FARCON was 100 people, and that was impactful because I think 2023, especially the first half, was very much an existential period for us. It was like, are we even building the right thing? Do people care? And I think that was very much an affirmation that, like, okay, there's a group of people that actually care. And then I think seeing it at the scale this year and the progress that we made, that feels good. I think there's also been some of the stuff with the growth, like you know, the Twitter personality, I'm really trying to push like numbers because I think it ultimately showcases to other people who aren't on Farcaster yet, like maybe I should go check it out. But that's actually not my personality. My personality, I'm actually kind of grumpy. And so what I'm always looking at is like how many actual people that I would actually want to spend time with in person are on this network. And that number is far smaller than the number that's the headline number. And so I think balancing that out, because I think if we can make progress towards just like actually interesting people who are creating interesting content or developers, that is actually the thing that will make us successful. And so I think I had this concept QDAO, which, you know, we've talked about a little bit, but basically it's kind of nebulous, but more or less it's some amount of, you kind of know the people that are actually making the network more valuable versus people are just making the numbers change. And so I think that is very much our focus. And so a lot of the work we've been doing recently is to try to shift the network towards social graph based experiences, which then makes it a lot harder for kind of like a lower quality or spammy account to kind of like get visibility. And then I think the other big thing is pushing channels into the protocol, because then I think it gives developers a lot more ability to create what I said yesterday, these cozy spaces.
So I think that's interesting. Yeah, that's cool. You know, I remember early I think we chatted early on in Farcaster's growth. You were doing the one by one onboarding up to number what, 1,000?
Yeah,
around 1,000, which is like a lot of calls, y'all. Like that's a lot of calls. And you know, I think like this, but it shows sort of like I think that the belief in how you actually build a social network is getting QDAOs in the room, right? Getting the right people in, having that sort of quality experience grow over time. There's sort of like a belief in sort of one step after the other, and having a trust in that being a useful thing, which I'm sure probably around number 400 was, or a few of those moments was kind of a moment to reflect on. But I think like this how you continue to build with that intentionality as this reaches, you know, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of active users, I think is an interesting thing. So maybe you can kind of dive into some of like the specific changes you've made recently that kind of are focused on that, and maybe if you can hint at some of the other things that you're thinking about, that'd be cool.
Yeah, so I think one thing Varun and I have always approached building is just thinking orders of magnitude. So the nice thing is when you're a team of two, you automatically get the first order of magnitude, like you have two users more than just one. And then there's also this Paul Graham quote of like, find 100 people who like rabidly love your product versus, you know, 1,000 or 10,000 people that like kind of like it. And so I think we really focused in on that for the first 2 years. It was a bit of a slog. And I think where we have gotten to now, because the network is permissionless and we've had a lot of growth, is we actually have the flip side of that is you have a lot of noise and actually trying to dial the signal back in, right? Because people are pining for the days when it was gated by my DMs and, you know, there were 10,000 or fewer people on the network. And so by definition, there's a kind of curation of everything on there. I still believe it's possible to quote scale quality, but I think it's just having us retool how we approach things. And so, as I mentioned, the default experience now on Farcaster is graph based. And you can think of it as kind of three graphs. So the graph that you control, who you follow. So you decide to follow people, you're going to see them all around the app. The second is there is a kind of globally interesting set of users. We have this thing called the power badge. It's not perfect, but it's a decent proxy for interestingness. And then the third, which is a slight different shift than I actually don't know if any other social network does this, is if you're using a shared space. So you do a cast, everyone you interact with as that cast author, you're essentially curating the most interesting replies, whether you like it or reply to it. So you now see those as a viewer. And so that's new discovery. And then the same thing with channels. And so I think shifting to this concept that shared spaces are actually not like permissionless. They actually belong to the curator of that space is going to lead to a much higher quality experience. In the same way that someone randomly can't come off the street right now and immediately jump in and jump on this live stream. It's
These are all random people.
Yeah. But I think that is like how interesting discussions happen, is when you have people willing to kind of listen and there are some norms. And I think we've been trained on some of these mass size social media platforms of just like that are focused massive engagement, is anyone can comment on anything and that's their people's right. And actually it's a little different. It's like you control your own graph and your own feed, like in terms of posting to your followers, but you shouldn't actually have a right to just go interrupt anybody else's. So I think we're not quite there yet, but I think dialing in on those norms. And again, this is just a Warpcast decision. Other people can do differently, but I think if we crack that and it actually works, it's going to be able to massively scale the network while still having that kind of cozy feel. Which I said yesterday, I think people in 2024 are craving social networking. Everything else is social media. And social media is all about broadcast, not really getting real engagement. It's about getting your message out. And there's a time and place for that. But I think, the fact that 500 people showed up and a lot of people were excited to come here just to actually be able to meet internet strangers who are now friends, like that is actually something that I think we want to keep doubling down on.
I'm curious how you think about growth, I guess, on the path to whatever, 100 million, 200 million active protocol users. Is it just going to be this kind of continued compounding thing over time? There are more clients that are, acquiring users. You guys are improving the product. People are talking about it. Or do you see, I guess, like when you kind of look out, are there some clear kind of like product-based inflection points that you think are gonna kind of have these like orders of magnitude impact?
Yeah, so I think just to re-outline from yesterday, we still think there's actually a decent amount of growth still in crypto, and that's an area that we have the closest thing to product market fit is with people who are interested in crypto. So I think we should just continue to double down on that. I think it's really easy to get distracted to say, okay, well, we need to now go broad versus like run through the finish line and actually, whether you win crypto Twitter, I don't know if that's the right way to frame it is, but like in terms of, call it 80% of people who are interested in crypto should have a Farcaster account and some level of, like whether they check it or not, but like that awareness should be there. And I think we're not quite there. So focus on that. Second is channels, because I think if we get channels right, it actually gives any individual, whether they're a developer or not, right? You can think of yourself as a social entrepreneur, can build a community, actually have ownership over essentially the user list of that community, right? I think if you create a Discord, you actually really don't own that like you work hard to build that up. Discord can shut you off and you don't get a chance to export that. So I actually think getting that on chain and having that be sovereign, that's important for both the people building those communities, but also for the developers, right? Like a client that like Dennis is building, like he needs that kind of guarantee that like Warpcast can't go mess with how the channels are working. And so I think we kind of need to nail that. And then I think the last thing is there's a bunch of just unsexy stuff that every social app that is at scale that you use every day has already kind of like gotten right and nailed. And so really basic one, every major social network grew through contact import. Facebook grew through email, it was pre-mobile. And then every single one of the like major social apps you use today, the reason they grow so fast is most people click and upload their contact book. Well, people don't do that in crypto because they're a little bit more privacy centric. And so I think we need to figure out what our version of contact import is. Maybe it's some on-chain signals, maybe it's something different. But without that, you do not get the famous thing with Facebook is if they could get 10 friends, you would stick around on Facebook, because that's why actually people use most social networks is it's their friends use it. And then the secondary reason and kind of when it shifts to social media is there's interesting content, right? But getting the friends using it and actually being able to kind of get that density of like, oh, there are at least a few people I know and I can have fun on this app or social network, that is actually the critical thing to growing. And a lot of that is just like very basic blocking and tackling. It's like, how good is your invite flow? How good is your onboarding flow? Like right now, when you onboard, we put you into an interest-based flow, but those are global recommendations. Like if you invite someone, it should actually reflect who you interact with the most, because you could imagine now you onboard someone, they follow you, and then the people you interact with the most, they follow. So now you're seeing their conversations in the feed rather having it feel like this kind of generic broadcast only thing. And so much of that is like we could do it for an existing user, they don't even realize it, but for the next person that signs up, that makes it much more likely that they stick around and it actually feels more like, again, the social network.
I love that. Yeah, I mean, for us, we had a Discord. We shut down our Discord a long time ago, and it was a very smart move for us. And I think channels to me was like the first big unlock of seeing like a much better form factor for that, open, discoverable, shared space people could participate in. I have to hide a lot of casts and ban a lot of people. So if we could fix some of that, even though I got into it with you because I felt recent wasn't actually reflective of like the actions that were happening there. So I know how hard it is to go do that.
Use Automat?
Yes, but also not the most helpful thing still, unfortunately. It's a lot of false positives on it. And but yeah, I mean, there's a few emojis that if you block, you get 80-90% of this stuff, which is yeah, it's useful, and I guess that's a great point, right? Like there's this ecosystem of people who are building that stuff out. But maybe it's sort of a last question, and then we sort of think about the future. And, a big promise of Farcaster is that anybody can go build on top of it. And we had Dennis up here talking about a new client that's being built on top of it. I think we're still seeing a lot of folks, I think, very limited in their thinking around what clients on Farcaster can be. So I'm wondering if you have some ideas or excitements or wishes of what might be built on top of it. Maybe we can expand people's minds on what you're sort of imagining.
Yeah, I think the most recent example of this, and I've been kind of pushing this for a while with people, and in some ways they don't believe me that I actually want this to happen, is the app Dracula, the video app from Alex. They actually just use the Farcaster social graph. So in some ways, someone asked me, is like, isn't that extractive? Like they're not actually adding anything back, and all they're using it as is essentially like this contact import, right? Going back to this idea that social apps grow really fast when you can find your friends in your graph. And from my point of view, it's like, no, that's completely something that we want to happen, because what that actually ends up doing is there's a reflexive property on that, is that then your Farcaster graph is actually something you care about. And when you sign into a new app, and if you can just permissionlessly, whether you're using sign in with Farcaster or sign in with Ethereum, right? I sign into an app with DWR.eth. A clever developer can just ping DWR.eth on something like Nanar or Airstack, see all their friends, and then be able to make those recommendations, maybe even pre-fill out my profile, right? Like you can just pull that in permissionlessly. And so rather than having to go through 7 steps to do onboarding, because you're already active on Farcaster, you can not only have your profile filled out, but then you can actually see who your close friends are, right? Things that like basically even with contact import in Web 2, you if you're in my phone book, are you a close friend? It's always that awkward thing. It's like you sign up to a social app and it's like, why is my dentist? And like it's very crude. Whereas you can look at the entire social graph and you can say, okay, here are the 10 people you interact with the most on Farcaster. I'm going to show you their profiles immediately in this new app. And so I think that's just like a basic 101 thing where you don't even have to worry about any of the complexity of Farcaster. Just use the graph permissionlessly. And I love that because ultimately that makes Farcaster's graph more valuable to people, which further people will want to sign up, but also developers want to build. And that flywheel is the thing we're trying to get going. So we're not quite there today, but I actually think Dracula is the first time someone did that. And then I had Alex come back and be like, I don't even know why I hadn't thought of this sooner. And so I think we need to do a better job of kind of like marketing that a bit, like from a developer standpoint. But I think we're slowly making progress on that.
Amazing. All right. Well, we have a big list of things to get through. Really appreciate you hanging out with us today. I know you've been doing the tour. Do you want to say anything to him?
Nope.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, brother. I love it. He's like the rock star of this group. So he's out the back door to the green room. Let's go. Yeah, back to back to back. I think that is super interesting. This idea of a social graph. I mean, that's a big unlock. I didn't even realize Dracula had used that. I think one of the things we have planned for the live stream here is to swap out the chat feature we have and use Farcaster as like the main interface there as well. I think it comes from like more of a distribution mindset more than anything else, but there's probably some interesting things we could do with bringing folks in there. So that's kind of cool. I realize so we're going to go to a new segment right now. This is going to be mad awkward.
No, it's going to be good. We're going to do it workshop style.
We're going to do a workshop style?
We're going to do a workshop.
Okay, so
because we don't have a screen for you all to look at. Like what we're streaming is primarily what you're seeing here. And maybe you're going to turn around and talk to me. You really don't have to, but you should pull out your cell phones. And we're not going to fire off any transactions, but you should totally go to runemilio.xyz. Intro the...
Yeah, okay. So,
okay, yes.
So this was after a conversation with Gabby, who was our lovely co-host last week. She's like, you have to do a new segment called WTF IPDOC, which stands for what the fuck is peace doing on chain? Right? The crowd goes wild. Exactly. So this is the original idea for this stream came from us sitting in Mexico City at an offsite, and the group went quiet because Peace Note had taken over the TV and was just like in the most unhinged way, clicking links that nobody should click, like .zip, zip files to his computer. And so we realized we had something special here in the unhinged Internet Explorer that is Peace Note. So I'm going to throw it to Peace Note. This is what the fuck is Peace Note doing on chain?
Yeah. So, okay. the latest thing that I've been really obsessed with is this thing called this project called Runmilio, and I think the mint was, I don't know, like 15 days ago or 11 days ago, a couple weeks ago. Mint was fine. You inscribe your ordinals, everybody's happy. It starts trading. It blows up. It's trading at almost 0.05 BTC. And then all of a sudden, this person Melted Minds on Twitter notices that the dev wallet has teleburned a redacted Romero baby. And he has then taken that teleburned redacted Romero baby and sent it to the Satoshi Nakamoto address, followed by a transaction where he sends one of these Romero NFTs, or pardon me, these Romero ordinals to the Satoshi burn address. So all of a sudden, there's this Twitter Spaces. It's been going for hours. Everyone's like, okay, what the fuck do we do? Melted's like, I'm fucking sending my Romeros to the burn address. I don't give a shit. So Melted sends his ordinals to the burn address first, and then all of a sudden, like 60 more madmen on this Twitter space just all start sending their Runmilios to the burn address. The Runmilio Twitter is saying, we need blood, we need more, you need to do this for your ancestors, let go. They're saying all this through like Nordic runes on the Twitter, and everyone's on like lingojam.com and like these stupid translating websites trying to figure it out. So every day, basically at 7, they keep like putting out these weird cryptic updates and puzzles. So if you're on runmilio.xyz right now, you'll see a count. That's the number of Runmilios that have been burned or like are sitting in Satoshi's address right now. It updates with the block time. The above transactions are the proof of the teleburn and proof of that Runmilio burn. But then there's like some Easter eggs. So like you see those scrolling transactions there. If you on mobile, it's kind of difficult, but if you can manage to click one of the runes next to the address, it will, I can't even get one right now. It will pull up a password field. That password is 138. And if you can get that password in, that will bring up another password entry where that password is AESIR, where then if you are one of these people who have burned your address, you can connect your Unisat or Xverse wallet and grab this hash. And right now, basically, we're all just sitting in this group chat. No one's sharing their hashes. We've written them down. We're just holding on to them, waiting for the next transmission. And that is the most batshit drop that I've experienced in so long. And I really like it. So like, I don't know if ordinals are valuable. They're at least worth 1 sat. I don't know if runes are valuable. You can buy them with Bitcoin. But it's been one of the best experiences, and it's hilariously nostalgic for 2021.
How much value was sent to that burn address?
Over $2 million of USD value has been sent to the burn address from the Runmilio collection.
Okay.
From just like people. It's 947 addresses. And Melted actually put together, he put together a list of all the addresses and inscribed it onto Bitcoin too. So if anyone wants to airdrop these foolish, fearless idiots, they're out there because we're diehards. And
If I'm going to sum up the sentiment in the room, it's one what?
yeah,
Which I love.
so
this is what I wake up to in our group team Telegram chat in the morning. Is like, Peace has been up till 3 a.m. and it's play by play of what happened, and I don't know what the hell you just said, frankly.
yeah.
You know,
I mean, what's awesome is it's actually really basic and like outside of a couple of people who are really good at reading the mempool.space. It's like all we're doing is sending transactions, and it's one of the best games and like experiences that I've had in crypto in so long. And
I think moral of the story is like, find yourself someone like Peace that just hangs out in very, very different corners of the internet than you.
No, the moral of the story is buy Bitcoin and hit send.
The mother chain.
The mother chain. That's right.
All right. Well, that was great. You guys can look forward to another one next week. We often check in on Fridays, just be like, oh, it was like the most interesting thing you guys did on chain. And, we're all kind of aligned. We were playing with similar protocols or whatever. Some new social product came out, and then Peace just will go off like that for 5 minutes and I'm glad you guys are now going to get to see that. So
Have you bought any yet?
What?
I mean,
Runmilios? Dude, they're dipped down now. I mean, it's like either, yeah, so you can look on Magic Eden. They've been trading at like 0.12 BTC or something. So
basically free.
basically free. I mean, I don't know if you want to burn them now. It's like this Twitter account is scary. They're just like yelling things. They like type in all caps and they're like, yeah, the gods demand it. Nothing can stop what's coming. Runmilio. You have no idea what we did in the halving block. The replies are great. We're like, nothing can stop us. God damn, I am bricked. Get your shit together, Netlify. I guess we crashed the site. That's great.
it's so good. I love this. This is just internet cult building. It's a beautiful thing, even though it doesn't make sense to most of us. Pieces wired for it. All right, sick. Let's move on to titles. Do you just want to come up here and just quickly tell us what you just dropped?
Get them up
It'd be
here.
really dumb for me to just talk about it while you're sitting there. Oh yeah. Okay, so this is Soren. Soren is the founder of Titles. Titles, I think, like for a while, you guys have kind of just been experimenting or building on top of this idea of like on-chain attribution and remixing of like creator content, right? I think initially you started kind of more of a tool where you could like pull stuff in and kind of like pretty manually remix it. And more recently, you've been getting, I guess, increasingly into AI as kind of the core kind of interaction medium. And a drop you just announced this week kind of really leans into that. So would love you to share it. We're gonna train an Enjoy AI model on this shortly.
Yeah. So for context, like last year, we built out a protocol that was native to the idea of remixing, like existing on-chain assets. And the more we showed people that, they had a lot of fun with the like application that we had built on the protocol there. But what we started to see was just this growth in the open source AI ecosystem, and specifically artists getting quite mad about their relationship to these models overall. When you look at Midjourney or DALL-E, for example. And so the more we talked with artists about their relationship to these, we realized like the pain point around attribution and ownership of an internet asset and a model was like a 10 versus like looking at your core NFTs actually. And so we realized the protocol that we had built that sits underneath the core application was actually incredibly well suited for how do we actually own like our own kind of likeness through these models on the internet. And so we started going down that route. We started launching a bunch of different models. The most prominent one that we did was with Doge, and we like annoyed everyone on Farcaster because we had about 30,000 people flood in and create all these types of Doge pictures. And it was a lot. But so we took a lot of those learnings, and most recently we dropped the ability to come into our web application and log in with your wallet. It'll pull all of the collection you've ever made on chain, and then from any platform, whether you're on Manifold or Zora or Super Rare, and then you can train a model on that collection. And so then it'll go through the process, train a model, spit that out, and then make it available through our creative tools where anyone can use that model, and you make money and maintain attribution as those collections are produced with those models. So in effect, helping essentially artists define their likeness through these models and then monetizing them.
So I think if you're watching on stream right now, you're watching Peace attempt to figure out how to train a model right now. I mean,
Yeah, I'm just clicking through right now. Unfortunately, I think we have too many windows going. So
we got a lot of windows.
We should train some stuff this week, and we'll bring it up next week with some quality outputs. I want to jam the Enjoy meme account through it. I don't have those keys with me.
Oh yeah. Okay, so yeah, I mean, I think as soon as we heard it, like our minds started going quite a bit. One of the biggest requests we have for people that are in the Enjoy channels, they just want to participate in the co-creation around the stuff. And sure, the Figma is out there, there's the skills that are out there, but I do not own any of those skills, quite frankly. And so and then also I think we see like an inundation of incredibly low quality AI BS stuff that gets posted there. So my dream here is actually by just kind of pushing this tool front and center. Not only am I going to be able to participate, I didn't realize Cheryl made some Enjoy memes and just got showered in Enjoy tokens. She's like a whale out here just because of being a creator, which is phenomenal. I want a bag. I want to participate in creation.
I want you to have a bag.
Josh is so supportive. He really wants me to thrive. So I'm excited to see that, and then also see like hopefully the kind of the quality of participation go up as people have more of a clear way to do that.
Yeah, I think it's kind of these meme coin, scene coin communities that this seems like the best fit for, right? Especially now, I think being able to just like price mints in tokens. I'm just captivated by how it's like such a simple thing, but just being able to like tell a community that like you've built this thing for them, and then now having a model that can just like make that creation way easier, and having like tipping and social distribution that you can actually just get rewarded for those ideas. Like I feel like the flywheel is just getting so much tighter, like fucking every week, and yeah, just participating in these communities is getting increasingly fun.
All right, so where can people go check it out and then start to use this?
Yeah, so our website is titles.xyz. You can go on the website there. We're currently curating the set of creators, artists, IP holders that want to train models. But you can go on the website, click the top right button, and then it'll say train a model, and you can go on there and throw in your wallet and your email, and we'll ping you when we're ready. So yeah, well, you start to see a lot of models coming out of the Titles website.
Don't let him out of the room without putting you on the allow list here, folks. He's right here. There's no way he's going to be able to say no to you. No way. All right, man. Thanks for joining us.
This is great. 11 minutes to talk about some pretty thick topics. Thick topics. I mean, we can fly through them. Yeah. So one we want to talk about. Obviously, a big topic of the week was the Eigenlayer airdrop.
I can't believe that was this week.
People are what?
Can't believe that was this week.
Yeah, you're right. It seems a long time ago. Yeah, people were mad. You know, white paper was complicated. I think only 5% was actually going to stakers and 55% to investors in team. Tokens non-transferable. US, Canada, China was blocked. Whatever. Everyone's blocked. People are very mad. I think we don't really want to talk too much about Eigenlayer specifically. I think we can kind of zoom past the universal interplanetary travel token or whatever it's called. Yeah. But really just wanted to touch on how I think it feels like we're kind of reaching this like disillusionment point almost with this like endless infra cycle, these like overfarmed kind of hyped up airdrops that are ultimately yielding nothing because everyone is trying to kind of play that game, this like low float, high FDV thing. And, you know, I think in the previous cycles, it just made a ton of sense. Like all the serious kind of big projects were infra. Like that's where kind of like the serious builders were, because it's what was getting funded. It's what, you know, the space ultimately needed. But I think we're just increasingly just like no longer at that point. And I think it's just increasingly making less and less sense for like retail to spend much time there, because we have meme coins, we have scene coins, we have consumer products with real usage that are starting to vertically integrate and launch their own tokens. And playing there is just so much more fun and social. The upside is way higher than, you know, buying and holding some like $5 billion random infra token like out of the gate. So I think, I don't know, it just feels like the last 5 kind of infra protocol tokens that have been dropped the last couple of weeks have just dumped, and people are just kind of tired and sick of it.
I mean, I think that, like the reality is most tokens are meme coins, even if it's infra or not. And I think there's just like more interesting meme coins than $5 billion meme coins that exist out there right now. And so I think, you know, we talked last week about this sort of, you know, the VC versus the retail debate around tokens. And I think that's like a big political movement that's underpinning a lot of conversations and beliefs in crypto today. But I think one of the core mistakes people make there is like looking at the last few cycles and thinking that those were being invested in because of the fundamentals in any way whatsoever, right? And I think the reality is people were investing in them because they were the cool, interesting, hot thing. And there was sort of a belief in the future and a sense of identity, and maybe I'm going to get rich, and all these things that are actually far more real and relevant in meme coins or in these tokens that are actually launching in much more organic ways. And maybe that's a very wrong word to use in anything in crypto, calling it organic. But I think the sense of participation and riding the ups and downs and feeling like you're on the ground floor of something is just far more compelling to more people. And you know, there's a number of reasons why we haven't had that sort of flourishing scene. You know, thank you, Gary, and etc. But I think we're seeing those pockets start to emerge. And so I think what's going to be really interesting in my mind is to think about what some of these more consumer, more brand focused, more identity focused infrastructure plays. I think about Zora. I think about Farcaster specifically. Think about the amount of growth they've had in the sort of private markets, both from a valuation perspective and a user-based perspective, and think about what a challenge is and like what that token is going to look like in the future. Because I think that's going to be the ultimate question, right? Like how much of this is actually people want to speculate and want to be a part of the thing, and being able to ride something from zero up to Valhalla is like the thing that people are excited about, and how much of it is actually this sort of sense of like a real product and business being built here. And I think we spent a lot of time diving into Zora data. If you have hundreds of thousands or millions of users, doing big airdrops is a very, very hard thing to do there, and allowing your community to participate in that. People are investing a lot of time and effort into building their identities, into supporting these products and being early and coming out to events like this. And if I think a lot of what you see with an eigenlayer here is the sense of ownership people have over their participation in it, and then being kind of given a big middle finger, both from multiple different perspectives, but also from like, I don't think anybody here knows what sort of valuation their airdrop is at right now, period. Anyway, so maybe it'll be big. I don't know. You think so?
Yeah, but like where does it go from there, right? Like everyone participated because everyone was told that it was a place to go make money and it's going to be a big airdrop, right? So when that big airdrop happens and it's at some astronomical valuation, it's like what next? Like maybe it's a good place to park ETH, if it's yielding well and whatever, if people, that's a good place to park it, then great. But people want to consume tokens as products, and I think pretty quickly consuming that token as a product becomes way less fun and desirable than all the other places you can go do that. I think this kind of gets us into our fat token thesis. you want to lay it out?
Yeah, the pre-blog post. I think this was sort of like it's kind of a tweet that John Palmer tweeted that I told him he needs to say more about, and he's like, some of that's alpha, and I was like, okay, John, just send the tweet. He said it was for paid subscribers. So I tried to subscribe, and he's like, oh, sorry, there's no, it's a priceless subscription. I was like, well, fuck, okay. But it's this idea of sort of like, I think Kel used this in one of his threads a while back, right, talking about the fat protocol thesis and kind of flipping that around into meme coins. And so I think this idea of fat tokens in protocols is actually something that we're really excited about, and I think seems to be one of the more concise ways of describing this idea that tokens are going to capture the most value. Really, like the belief, the identity, the participation, the joy. I mean, Josh is a big token guy. He fucking loves tokens. He's just all about tokens, and I think that's actually a thing that is. I mean, hands up. Do you love tokens? Eddie doesn't like tokens. No, I saw you, Eddie. You didn't put your hand up, bro. You didn't put your hand. You're a big token guy. Yeah, and I think it's also sort of a comment on just how commoditized infrastructure is, right? Like there's 7, liquid restaking protocols, and there's no shortage of the ability to go roll your own market or your Uniswap derivative, et cetera. And so I think as these communities, teams, brands, scene coins, tokens are able to sort of rally around these assets, it's actually not that complicated to start going down the stack and starting to integrate in a lot of these tools. And in fact, I mean, the beautiful thing about crypto is there's been billions of dollars and countless heartbeats invested into building incredible infrastructure. I think the open question is like, how is value captured there? And I think a lot of them will generate fees, and that's great, but there's something more here, I think, that gets represented in the tokens and the value that comes around them. And so, obviously we're talking our book here. You got Enjoy floating all around us here. I think Steed Club is very active in sort of building and investing in this space. But I think increasingly we're very confident that tokens are the thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone can agree, right, that attention, distribution, brand are like the things that matter on the internet. And I think we just continue to have very strong conviction that these like social token networks are going to be the places that aggregate those. And I don't think it necessarily means like, it's a meme coin needs to go build product. I think there are different ways to come at it. I think you could, Degen started as this scene coin, and then suddenly they have, they have their own native protocols. They have their own products being built. They have their own chain. And, Enjoy kind of has a similar opportunity, right? And you could also come at it from the direction of, Pump.fun, kind of aggregating all of this like very kind of internet native kind of degen energy. And then, guess what they could pretty easily go do? Layer 2, they could have their own swapping interface. They could have their own deck screener if that's where all the attention and energy and brand lives. So I think like ultimately it's you either as a protocol or a product or a token, you either become the social token network that really captures the like hearts and minds of a big scene and aggregates, you know, protocols and products within that, or you end up getting consumed by one or having to play within one.
I mean, I think if somebody goes and launches a pump.fun token before they do it, that would be an interesting token to be a part of.
Yeah, exactly. That would be the way to go attack that, right? So they're going to need to do that, and then that's going to need to be the scene coin for this thing, and then there's tons of opportunities emerge from that. So yeah, I don't know, fun to watch. Gonna be fun to watch. Okay, we have 2 minutes. Okay, so fantasy top. Yeah, just kind of briefly wanted to talk about this. It's like a blast-based fantasy influencer game that launched this week. And it's just, you know, it's been cooking. I think it's done 2,000 ETH in fees in the last couple of days. And basically the way it works is it's like fantasy football, but for influencers. So you know, open packs, you can buy cards of, you know, crypto, Twitter personalities. And basically what you do is you enter tournaments, set your lineup, and compete based on like the social metrics of your team against others. And I think it's just like a really smart product for a few reasons. I think one, in today's world, it just seems incredibly obvious that like fantasy influencers should be a thing. Like people,
They're boxing each other now. So
they're boxing each other. Like they are increasingly, them and athletes, like they don't look too different, right? So like that just makes a ton of sense. And I think also it's just a very smart, you see a lot of, you know, social-fi or like crypto social products try to change the place that people are actually building reputation or building their audience or socializing. And I think that's just such a hard cold start problem to overcome. So just taking the core thing that people actually want to do, or at least the core thing that's novel, which is like speculating on social metrics, but letting the game continue happening in the same place and just purely focusing on the kind of like fantasy speculative game just seems like a great, smart place to start.
I mean, we got our own fantasy influencer in the crowd here, Ben Roy in the background there. If you would go to Ben Roy's Twitter account, you'll see that he has hundreds of thousands of fans that are very organic on the internet that are supporting him and distributing the tokens. I think the interesting thing here is like actually doing it through Twitter creates this huge vector for manipulation and being attacked. So it's actually not a fun game in my mind right now to go play because I don't have a bot army. Anybody got a bot army? Come talk to me. I got some manipulation to do with Ben Roy just for his ego and for my profit. That'll be kind of fun to go do. So yeah, but I think it is interesting, this idea of being able to sort of tap into these other networks. And, you know, again, it's yes, there's more distribution there, but you actually have, as a builder, your hands really tied behind your back. And also, I don't know, man, do I really want to be playing a social, like a Web 2 game that this data can get turned off on me whenever somebody decides to go do it? I mean, Elon's a pretty big speculation guy, so I think maybe we're probably safe there. But anyways, we're at the top of the hour here. We have to get into at least one lightning round. Okay, Frentech has a lightning round. What?
The loading bar was nice.
I thought that was the airdrop. I thought the loading bar was the loading bar wasn't even nice piece.
I
mean, I guess
good old fashioned
it was
spinning
it was a
wheel.
good, yeah.
But it had my I was fucking gripped. I was locked in on that spinning wheel, watching the price go from $8 to $4 to $1. That was dope.
Yeah, it was a different animation rather than the chart with the spinning wheel. I mean, I think I mean, I would never sort of bet against Racer and the product team over there because I think they're, you know, crazy. But I think the funny thing for me was actually another John Palmer. I'm pumping John's bags here so much, but
he's chock full of good tweets.
Yeah, he's an idea guy, so he's got it. But he said something about like Frentech should have just like should have not even launched a thing, just launched a token because the Twitter vibe was so good, and now it's kind of broken or something. He's got a better tweet. PC can probably bring it up if you want to, but
huge mistake to launch Frentech V2. If I were Paradigm, I was fuck, that's the wrong one. They shouldn't have shipped it. Should have just launched a token and kept hyping it forever. Yeah, basically that, you know.
Yeah.
Or send it to the burn address.
Yeah, I knew we were going to bring runes back into this whole thing.
I think the amazing thing is that they actually had a like redemption opportunity, which in consumer crypto you typically just don't get. It's like you build a shitty product that people try and then like fall off and hate. Like you don't get an opportunity to bring them back, and they very much did. You know, token incentives obviously played a huge role in that. But then, yeah, I don't know. I'm just shocked at how little they actually improved. So basically, like the only thing that really changed is there's now a friend token integrated into it. You can LP and, you know, farm those rewards in app, and there's now like group friend tech rooms instead of them being purely individual. But it just feels like the same game. Kind of already feels stale. You know, back when it first launched, there was like not a lot to do in kind of like the really kind of consumer speculative social world. And now there's fucking meme coins everywhere. There's pump.fun. There's like so much other shit to do that I think is ultimately the same kind of job to be done that friend tech's going after. So I don't know.
I love it when you talk about jobs to be done and meme coins. That's great. All right, folks. Well, huge appreciation. It is actually like, it's a crazy thing. You know, we first had maybe 5 people on the first stream. It's actually more than that, but not much more. And it was always crazy to check in and see people actually watch this period. And to have all of you in the room here with us today is truly special. So thank you very much for hanging out with us for our first IRL live, Internet Explorers live ever. For those of you that are here, we have some special stuff for you. You see these Enjoy shirts and Slow Rodeo shirts behind us. Lovely collaboration. Shout out to the Slow Rodeo team for, well, making that happen, and also so much of what's happening on Saturday. Reminder, we are hosting free Wi-Fi here 10 a.m. until very late here at 57 Windward. So if you're in LA, you do not need to have a FARCON pass to join. You just need to find the link on our Twitter and get approved, and you can come hang out with us. There's over 600 people on this list right now, which is shocking to me. Very excited to see that. Well, tomorrow's gonna be crazy. We have a lot of great conversations, some wonderful partners that are joining and hosting conversations and made it possible. I'm not gonna list them right now because I'm gonna miss 1 or 2, and then that'll C Club. Yeah, C Club is more than just C Club is an important thing to say here. Lots else happening. There's a hackathon happening this weekend. I know you're all gonna be out there doing some fun stuff. So we're gonna be back here again. Well, not here. We're gonna be back on the internet. You're going to be able to go to your pee break. Peace is going to be able to go stand out in front of on his deck before we come in, and we get to stream live to the world. Eat soup or salads, whatever he does. Trade runes, buy ordinals. That's the Peace Note edition here.
Bitcoin.
Thanks so much, folks. We'll see you next week. Now you get to witness the awe.